Okay, are we live?
We're up.
Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. We're streaming on both Kick, YouTube, and Rumble.
You just like
Going-
that word.
It's not a word. We're going to be discussing a new species of Ankylosaur as well as a new species of Titanosaur has been discovered over in Asia. So, from Sci News, new species of Jurassic sauropod dinosaur uncovered in China. Yus Huang Corensis is one of the earliest diverging members of the sauropod dinosaur clade Macronaria. So this might be taking place somewhere around 170 to 175 million years ago, maybe even slightly earlier during the mid Jurassic. And Macronaria is a very large clade of sauropoda, or the sauropodomorph lineage of long necked dinosaurs. And also, by the illustration, it looks to be some species of Camarasauromorph. So, like Camarasaurus over in the United States, but it wouldn't evolve in North America until somewhere around 152 million years ago. That's far into the future of the Jurassic. Yu Huangquarensis lived in what is now China during the Middle Jurassic epoch, some 166 million years ago. Oh, it's much later. Well, possibly Macronaria evolved a bit later compared to overall sauropoda, but I believe it was at least 10 million years before this species evolved. The species belongs to Macronaria, a group of sauropod dinosaurs named after the large diameter of the nasal opening in their skull. So that specific red colored in area on the top of this Camarasaurus, well, calling it a Camarasaur because it looks like one, of this Macronarian's face. And it used to be theorized with many species of long necked sauropod dinosaurs that their nostrils would be placed right in front of their eyes. And I don't even believe it was due to further analyses. It was just maybe people just simply doing a quick analysis of the skull, but simply the nostrils would be placed right in front. So Macronaria is a clade of gigantic body size Sur- gigantic body size sauropod dinosaurs widely distributed from the late Jurassic to the late Cretaceous globally, said senior author Dr. Xin Ren, a researcher with the Institute of Geology at the Chinese Academy of Geological Sciences, and colleagues. However, its origin, early diversification, and dispersal are still controversial. The fossilized remains of a submature individual of Yuz Huang Carensis, including a partly preserved skull and 12 dorsal vertebrae, were excavated in Lahun village in southwest China.
Someone just asked, how old is the dinosaur?
Seems to be around 166 million years old or dating to the mid Jurassic. The late Jurassic starts somewhere around 160 million years ago, and you would have more species of at least medium sized sauropods evolve in different parts of Europe as well as Asia. But over in North America, you would have extremely large species start coming into different areas of the United States as well as different parts of Canada. And it's also, as you get even later into the Jurassic, a different larger, like 80-foot long or 25-meter species, such as like the different Mamenchosaurs over in China. Also, let's look up another species of sauropod, specifically Shunosaurus. So Shunosaurus. This is a medium-sized species of sauropod dinosaur, and the one of the unique things about this species is that Shunosaurus has a clubbed spiked tail. So, a very similar morphological characteristic to the different species of ankylosauromorphs, not so much the stegosaurs, which are a closely related lineage to the stegosaurs. I mean, to the ankylosaurs.
That looks kind of funny.
Yeah, in this instance, they're giving him a very small club tail, but this is not very common in the overall sauropod lineage. I do like, I don't mind this overall depiction. They are giving him very spike-like osteoderms along his neck, his back, and over to the end of his tail. His legs seem, I'd say, in overall musculature for a Shanosaurus, decent. The problem is, I think on that depiction, they're a bit short. Okay. This is one of those, I think, 1960s illustrations of Shanosaurus
I just like when they do that stuff.
when, well, I mean, for the time, it's not bad. The problem is you have it where it has Stegosaur thagomizer spikes right before the club tail, and they should be on the club itself, but also much shorter in length. They weren't necessarily very similar to different species or different thagomizers of the different species of stegosaurs. A somewhat similar characteristic, you could say, to certain species of ankylosaurs, almost like Euoplocephalus over in Lake Cretaceous, Alberta, Canada. That animal wouldn't evolve until somewhere around 75 million years ago. Oh, yeah, back in 2014's or 2013's Dinosaur Revolution. I did think even at the time that their legs were a bit skinny. And these animals were somewhere around 35 feet in length. They're pushing a little over 11 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 5 tons. I'm guessing, oh, because Chinosaurus is from late Jurassic China. What is it? Late Jurassic? Yeah. So somewhere around 158 million years ago, and it would be coming into contact with different species of theropod dinosaurs, members of the Metracanthosaur lineage of theropods, such as, in this case, Sinraptor, which, wait a second. Sinraptor, no, that would be a bit later. Sinraptor really wouldn't evolve until the early Cretaceous around 125 million years ago. I'm trying to think exactly who this could be. It might be simply an earlier relative of Sinraptor. No, Sinraptor is not a member of the Dromaeosaur raptor lineage. It is a Metracanthosaur. It's also not a Coelurosaur. Um, okay, let's look up Juanmaraptor or Yawan or Yawn. Yuanmoraptor.
Wait a minute. Yuanmour.
Yep, Aptor. Oh yeah, they added more spikes to this illustration. Now, overall, I think this is a really good picture. It seems to be from a similar illustrator or group of illustrators that did another dinosaur book from, I think it was like the late 90s, might have been early 2000s. Well, that's a very, unfortunately, it's blurry. Seems like a recent depiction. It's not bad. One Raptor also is a member of the Allosauridae lineage of theropod dinosaurs.
Oh, I got his jaws.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's also fairly recent discovered species of theropod dinosaur. So reaching a little over 14 feet in length or just over 13.2 meters and probably weighing somewhere around 800 to 1,100 pounds or a little over 500 kilograms. This is a very well preserved skull structure of the theropod. Just looking at the teeth, um, it is a very distinct Metracanthosaur tooth structure, not like certain other members of Allosauridae, which were actually much longer and thinner compared to the skull structure. Despite
Somebody
the,
feathered him.
it's very possible. I mean, you have it with many reconstructions, even to the mid Triassic, with some of the earliest species of carnivorous dinosaurs, where they're feathered. I think even certain proto dinosaurs are depicted with feathers as well. This is giving it a much more raptor-like appearance. You could say in certain illustrations of one Raptor, they do give it a bit more, not necessarily a Utah raptor, maybe on the lines of an equilibrator, and probably mixing it with an allosaur itself. Because looking at the way that the tail is structured, also how long of specifically toes that this animal has, Um, Also has quite long curved toe claws itself, which is a good thing to note considering there are certain species of dinosaurs that had very flat toes, such as spinosaurs like Spinosaurus. Yeah, here's another picture of specifically just a well preserved, also cleaned jaw structure of this animal. Okay, this in these images, it seems that it actually had quite long teeth compared to its overall skull structure and much more allosaur like. So this is good to see. One Maraptor, there were different species of dromaeosaurs that existed or true raptors during this time in the early Cretaceous, even to the late Jurassic. They just simply weren't very common. But this animal, I believe, existed in the region probably somewhere around 150 to 155 million years ago and was likely hunting different species of mamenchosaurs, such as Omysaurus and Chanosaurus. Okay, let's go back to the article. So the fossilized remains of a submature individual of Yuzhuang including a partly preserved skull and 12 dorsal. Oh, it's good to see, especially since we found part of the skull. That does not happen very often with sauropods, especially. And also referring to larger species. The specimens were found in purplish red silty mudstones located in the middle portion of the lower Shaxmao Formation. Yazhuang bears a unique combination of features, such as two accessory fossae that exist on the posterior surface of dorsal diaphyses of anterior dorsal vertebrae. I'm going to have to go over these specific parts of the vertebrae themselves. These are talking about specific bones that they found of the sauropod dinosaur. And this seems to be the quarry. Whoa. Okay. I didn't realize that. This is actually a pretty decent preservation of sauropod bones. Now, there have been other sauropod specimens that have remained much more fully intact, really coming in from North America to different parts of the United States, like Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, South Dakota, sometimes even Texas. But this is quite interesting for China. China does host a wide range of different species of titanosaurs, but this is specifically the early Macroninian clade of dinosaurs or sauropods. And so you could say it's not very specific as to what subfamily of sauropods we are looking at. There might be the family Shunnosauridae. When it comes to Shunnosaurus itself, but for somebody like Yuz Huang, this new species, it's still a bit of a mystery. The discovery of Yuzhuang currences sheds new light on the origin and early diversification of Neosauropoda, a larger clade which includes Macronaria, one of the most controversial topics in the evolution of sauropod dinosaurs. Basically, their early evolution of these different species of sauropods. Now, just to be clear, the prosauropods are the ancestors to the sauropod dinosaurs that were strictly bipedal for the most part, had already gone extinct somewhere between actually around 180 million years ago. It suggests that the Middle Jurassic diversity of neosauropods was substantially higher than scientists previously recognized. It further supports that sauropods achieved a more rapid and varied morphological diversity and paleogeographical dispersal in the Middle Jurassic. Although neosauropods lack global distribution in the Middle Jurassic compared with the prosperous distributions of the late Jurassic, it may suggest the timing of its origin and initial diversification could be as early as the early Jurassic. Whoa. Well, that would be quite fascinating. So that would be pushing somewhere between 180 and 185 million years ago. Some might even state that um, actually you could say 170 to 175 million years ago is early Jurassic. But we already know that some of the earliest sauropods already existed back then. But if it's specifically referring to Macronaria, that would be quite captivating, especially pushing over 180 million years ago. The most possible widespread dispersal period is in the Bathonian Age or earlier when the sea level is relatively low. Anyhow, it further undermines the idea of the East Asia isolation hypothesis. I don't think at least I'm too familiar with the East Asia isolation hypothesis. It might be referring to certain species of dinosaurs that were stuck on East Asia. So basically, areas of Eastern Russia, Mongolia, Eastern China specifically, though it could be um, constituting all of China, um, Japan, Korea, and into Southeast Asia. Okay, let's head over to the next species or the next discovery. So, new small-bodied ankylosaur species unearthed in Argentina. A new genus and species of Nodosaurid ankylosaur has been identified from fossils found in Patagonia, Argentina.
What does that look like, a toy?
This is a model from somebody in Spain, I think. But let's see. So, but it does represent certain types of toys and nodosaurs that I've seen. Probably even gotten certain textures or coloring from just basing off of other models. Now, this does have a very nodosaurid sort of appearance to it. And when it comes to the nodosaurs, these are a group of armored dinosaurs that existed from the late Jurassic to virtually the end of the Cretaceous period. There just aren't many species that are found as you head further into the late Cretaceous. Tends to be more members of Ankylosauridae. They're both very closely related groups. But the ankylosauromorphs, and specifically the nodosaurs, first evolved somewhere between 155 to 160 million years ago during the late Jurassic. So the new species Patogopelta cristata roamed Earth during the late Cretaceous epoch between 75 and 70 million years ago. So it's a late Cretaceous species. This is really good to hear. Many species of nodosaurs really come from the early Cretaceous, at least that we have found so far. The ancient beast belonged to Ankylosauridae. The problem with that is mentioning Ankylosauridae, it's kind of like with mentioning Titanosauridae for sauropod dinosaurs, though I'd say Ankylosauridae might be a bit more brief. Um, it doesn't mention whether or not it's a true member of Nodosauridae or Ankylosauridae, but it has all the features to suggest Nodosaur, at least by the looks of it. A group of quadrupedal herbivorous armored dinosaurs in the order Ornithischiae. Ornithischiae would consist of the different species of iguanodontid or hadrosaur dinosaurs, the horned dinosaurs or the ceratopsians such as Triceratops and Psittacosaurus, and as well as the different species of stegosaurs like Huangosaurus and Stegosaurus. The fossil record of ankylosaurs is abundant for the Cretaceous of the northern hemisphere, but is very poor in the southern hemisphere, with a few species known from Australia, Chile, Antarctica, and Morocco. Um, yeah, sometimes you have to remember that you have to remind yourself that Morocco is in the southern hemisphere. It's just odd where it's placed on the map. It's Northwest Africa. So basically, where Spinosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, and Paralotitan would have existed as well. Said Facundo Reguetai, a PhD student at the Universidad Maimonides and CONICT, and his colleagues, from the size of its bones. I think the paleontologists estimated Patogopelta cristata was about 2 meters or 6.6 feet in length. Wow. I'm guessing this is a juvenile because in many cases, with that small of a body size for different species of dinosaurs, especially later into their evolution after the Triassic, they tend to be juveniles. But it could be a small species. The 2 meter or 6.6 feet body length estimated for Pantagopelta cristata is very small for an ankylosaur, comparable with a dwarf Nodosaurus Struthiosaurus. I wonder if that's because this Patogapelta might be member of the Struthiosaurinae lineage of nodosaurs, which is a specific subfamily, a smaller subfamily of the Ankylosaur lineage. In fact, let's look up somebody else. Europelta. So Europelta. There have also been late Cretaceous species of nodosaurs have been discovered over in Texas. But this one, however, is from Spain. This is a medium-sized species of nodosaur. The nodosaurs in general did not reach the larger ankylosaur sizes like Ankylosaurus or Euoplocephalus, Tarchiae. But Europelta is a very interesting individual. It has very specific characteristics or morphological characteristics that you do not see in other species of nodosaurs, such as like certain specific osteoderms or the spikes sticking from its upper hip area, as well as the shoulder blades of this creature. It does have a very, well, I guess, somewhat of certain nodosaur stereotypical osteoderm or spike depiction from the sides of its tail.
There's an AI version.
It's not bad, but it's giving it a club tail, and that is not found in any species of nodosaur. Also, the skull is too ankylosaur-like as well, specifically of like relating to members of Ankylosauridae. It should be much more narrow, shorter at even height, and a thinner, smaller beak or overall mouth as well. This looks too much like almost a young Ankylosaurus or maybe a Tarchiae.
Cartoon.
Still too Ankylosaur-like. Um, this looks like something from maybe like late 1980s. Could be recent though. But it's gosh, who is that? It. The problem with that is it also had even for an member of Ankylosauridae, it's too tall and round for any Ankylosaur species. Ankylosaurs in general, even the note, I'd say Ankylosaurs more though have a flatter, sort of a wider type of a physique to them, especially when referencing their core and their skull structure. Nodosaurs are a bit taller when it comes to their leg structure, maybe a bit shorter in overall wideness, length, or I guess you could say diameter when it comes to their overall armor or just core. But this is an okay model. A really weird skull structure though. For I mean, even Europelta. This is also like a close relative of the Sauropelta over in early Cretaceous North America, which existed in different areas of Oklahoma, North Carolina, around 110 million years ago. So let's see. Let's go back to the article. Interesting, like a dwarf. The fossilized material of the new dinosaur species was found in the Allen Formation in Salitro Moreno in the Argentinian province of Rio Negro. The specimens included vertebra, a tooth, a partial femur, and osteoderms bones embedded within the skin. The best preserved element from Patagapelta cristata is a femur or
Wait,
the thigh bone.
osteoderms are bones?
Well, they're preserved. They're enhanced scales, but they can turn into, well, yes, technically, it's like they're a scale like bone. So, and then during fossilization, they would be turned into stone.
No, that's not what it said, though. It said it referred to them as bones, didn't it?
Um, ye- I guess I could double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's basically a scale like bone structure. Another important and distinctive element is a portion of the neck armor which has particular spines and crests. According to the authors, Patagapelta cristata was a type of nodosaurid and chylosaur. Yeah, but I mean, by the overall physical look of this dwarf, it looks to be a nodosaur. It doesn't have a club tail. It has very distinct side spikes along its tail as well, which is not something that you see in ankylosaurs. You might see small osteoderms sticking from the side, but they tend to be quite circular in overall structure. Almost like with what you see on the side of this animal towards the very low um, level of its armor on like the core of its body. Let's see, what's another thing? I like that they're giving it an overall just sort of it's like a chunky but muscular type of a neck structure. Quite a wide face for a nodosaur. It's almost like something between an ankylosaur and a nodosaur when it comes to its skull. Very elongated, um, specific spikes sticking out above the shoulder blade. Still quite different from its relative Europelta, and Europelta was also larger. I'm guessing somewhere around 15 to 20 feet in length. They're pushing between 4.5 to 6 meters. Whereas this animal is just about, or like, yeah, I already said 15 to 20 feet. And yes, these animals were also herbivores, so feeding on early species of flowers. Though by the time this animal arrived, flowers were dominating the landscape. Even by the early Cretaceous, around 125 million years ago, plants or flowering plants had become quite common. So let's see. Another okay. According to the authors, we recovered Pedicapelta cristata within Nodosaurini related to nodosaurs from the mid Cretaceous of North America, contrasting the previous topologies that related this material with Penaplasaurini, late Cretaceous North American nodosaurs. I am not. I think. Oh, we've got another one. Let's see if this might not be it, but Papasaurus. So, Paw again, Saurus. So this is also a species of what I believe is Struthiosaurni. This is also not to confuse these animals with Struthiomimus, which is a member of the ornithomimid lineage of theropod dinosaurs, which is a large lineage of the Saurischian lineage of dinosaurs, and these are ornithischians. So, Struthiosaurni, specifically a member of the Nodosaur family. So, when it comes to Papasaurus, this animal, I believe, existed in, I think it was Texas that where it was discovered during the early Cretaceous. So, somewhere around 110 million years ago. And this animal didn't reach much more than 14 feet in length. They're pushing a little over 4 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 800 to 900 pounds or a little over 350 kilograms. And it has a much more nodosaur like skull structure to it. Also, when it comes to the overall armor, except these individuals seems to be an earlier depiction. Still good. Um, it would be covering probably a bit more of the overall body itself. Seems to be lacking in this instance. It's very possible that nodosaurs would have lived in family groups. We have found preservations of certain not mosasaur, nodosaur species amongst each other. Not to confuse these animals with the idosaurs, which were a group of archosauromorphs from the Triassic period and
Okay,
had already gone extinct.
one picture shows them without spikes, the next picture shows them with them.
Yeah, that's not a Papasaurus. That's something else. I think it's another species of nodosaur. I think he's a bit too tall for whatever he is because he's almost got like a hedgehog appearance to him, like literally like the chunkiness of one. There were cycads in the region, so nodosaurs, many species of dinosaurs would have fed on ginkgos, cycads at this time. Um, even different species of fruit. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh, so these results support a paleobiogeographical context in which the nodosaurs from Selectral Moreno, Argentina are part of the Allochthonous fauna that migrated into South America during the late Campanian as part of the first American biotic interchange. I think what it's referencing here is that this is when the nodosaurs in general would have migrated into different parts of South America from North America during the late Cretaceous. It was a very short window. And also, what happened is that during or earlier into the late Cretaceous, you had it where the Western Interior Sea split North America in half. Well, technically, it did towards the end, but it was a much smaller area. And there were probably certain regions where dinosaurs could efficiently travel across, like less than a mile in overall width. Let's see, what's another thing? So you had it where virtually North America and South America were somewhat connected. And think a bit later they would eventually diverge, but that's how you have it where all of a sudden different species of ankylosaur are showing up in South America where they hadn't been previously known before. Now, it might have been relatively brief considering there doesn't seem to be really any evidence for tyrannosaurs existing over in South America. Though this also, might have been a bit earlier into the Cretaceous because we don't really see any ceratopsians existing or horned dinosaurs like Triceratops over in South America. There were different species of abelisaurs or carnivorous theropod dinosaurs like Carnotaurus. Also different species of megaraptors, certain titanosaurs, though titanosaurs at that point had, like North America, become much less common. Well, not necessarily to the same extent of North America. They were just medium sized, so not reaching much more than 45 feet in length. They're pushing a little over 13 and a half meters, weighing between 9 to 18 tons. Also, at this point, like many species, well, the spinosaurs had gone extinct. But, it's definitely an interesting time during the Campanian stage around 75 million years ago, considering in North America, you had a wide range of different species of medium-sized tyrannosaurs, as well as hadrosaurs thriving, especially in areas like Canada. So, thanks for joining, and from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. Happy International Ice Age Month, and remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.